Last year we obviously announced our first camera, which was the Blackmagic Cinema camera, which was a 2.5K RAW camera. And we had a few things that were very key to that camera, in that we wanted to produce something which had high resolution, wide dynamic range, and also had the ability to interact well with a color correction system. When we actually started to design the camera, we started to look from the post-production forwards. So we started to look at how this camera is going to be used, what the real things that were needed to be able to produce high quality and beautiful images. So when we actually sat down after the show last year and we started to think about our next developments, what we thought was, wouldn't it be amazing if we could create a camera which has all of that ideology, all of those thoughts that we wanted to achieve last year, but was in something the size of your mobile phone that would fit in your pocket. So what you're actually seeing here to my right-hand side is the Pocket Cinema camera. Now this is a true digital cinema camera. The reason it's a digital cinema camera is it has a super 16mm sensor in there, and a micro 4/3 mount, and 13 stops of dynamic range. There's nothing like this you'll see anywhere else in the world. The images that this is producing are of cinema quality. So it will record in both HD, so it will record in ProRes 1080p. It will also record in a visually lossless cinema DNG file, which is what we can then use to grade and obviously be able to actually produce these wonderful images. What's also unique about this camera as well is that it also has an external battery and records directly to an SD card, which means you can actually take your footage directly from the camera, and then you can actually then import that directly through the SD slot on your laptop. The side of the camera has a mini HDMI connection on the side. It also has LANC control, which means that you can actually use this in environments where maybe you cannot stand close to the camera. So if you want to put this on a rig, or if you want to put this in underwater housing or on a helicopter, or if you want to put this in a position where maybe it's a crash cam in a car, you can control the camera from far away. But what's most the unique thing about this camera is that for something that is, like I say, the size of a mobile phone, you're able to put on a whole variety of lenses, even ranging up to large PL mount lenses, which you can see at the end of the line, where we've got an 18 to 80mm lens. So the key message with this camera is ultra high quality, cinema quality, 13 stops of dynamic range, super 16mm sensor. But what's great about this is that you are making a mini camera very, very big. Well, I think that everybody who decides to go out today and buy a camera has to make a series of choices on what resolution they want to work at, how they want to deliver the footage. And I think that in many ways we have to consider that today there's a lot of people who are still using HD. I can use my own example in that only a few weeks ago I was out shooting with the Blackmagic Cinema camera. It's a 2.5K camera, it has 13 stops of dynamic range, producing beautiful, beautiful images. But I had to work in a very compact environment, which meant that I couldn't have a tripod, I couldn't have a rig, I couldn't have the space, I had to carry it around in my hand. And I always knew at the point, even at the start of shooting it, I was always going to deliver in HD. So in many ways, when I look at this camera now, I think to myself, well, I didn't need the 2.5K. I didn't actually need a rig. So in many ways, for me, this was perfect. So where we see this camera being pigeonholed or being put into a certain person is very, very difficult, because I can see these being used on stage at concerts, where this could be attached to a drum kit while the guy's banging drums next to it. I can see this in the hands of somebody in education where they're wanting to learn and understand digital film. I can also see this in the hands of a feature film director who maybe wants a crash cam. I can see this, in the hands of everyday people like myself who just want to go out and film their family and get beautiful images. So I really think that, what we're trying to do is keep the spectrum wide. But when you're making a decision of when to purchase, always think about where you're going to deliver, what resolution you're going to deliver, and that will then limit you, then, I suppose, to the type of camera that we have. The pictures tell the story for themselves. I think anybody who sees the footage from the camera, anybody who sees the output from the camera will realise that this is a serious, serious piece of equipment. At the end of the day, we've gone past the days of where everybody feels that size means quality. we're all in a position now where we want to do things compact. We want to actually reduce the size of things, because the likes of you and I are now in a position where we don't go out with a crew of people. We go out and we film, we direct, we then probably take that back and edit ourselves. And I think that we have to realise that space now is something that is paramount to us. And as long as the quality is there, the size should never matter. So the availability of the camera is looking at July. We expect the camera to be released in the summertime. Obviously, people are placing orders today. We only announced I only announced the camera this morning, and I think one of the things that's really grasped people is that the price of this camera is less than $1,000. It's $995. For a digital cinema camera with a Super 16mm sensor, I think it's a pretty hard decision not to buy one.